So this happened. Such a non-thing. A few days ago, I was putting on my seatbelt in the car and something twanged. And ever since then, it's just felt a bit tight and a bit heavy and sore and stuff. So I think it's mostly just a bit of RSI. I don't think I'm gonna die, but here we are, fully Sami Zaining it. Anyway, welcome back to Fighting Through Writing, your apparently weekly wander through the word-laden wilderness that is competitive fiction writing. My name is Paul. I'm a real-life copywriter, a pretend professional wrestler, and in this series we are on a mission to try and write the story that helps me to become the undisputed champion of the Extreme Wrestling Corporation. Now, if you watched my last video, you'll know that that mission has started poorly, as our protagonist El Pablo and his brother Vertigo lost their EWC Tag Team Championships to the Heat Packers in the Prime season premiere. However, with pro wrestling being what it is, the two have an immediate opportunity to try and get back to winning ways as they take on the Heimlich brothers in the season premiere of Monday Night Brawl. That is the show that I'm going to read through and react to tonight in real time for me, and hopefully put out a video at the end of it that has a few less violin sounds and raining. So, here we go. Brawl number 620, the season 26 premiere, live from the Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I don't know that I really went into too much detail in the last show about how these episodes of Brawl and Prime and whatever else are all put together. So, much like a real wrestling company, you have your bookers, you have your people who put together the matches, who kind of plot out storylines for the various wrestlers on their respective rosters with input from the wrestlers themselves as well, and they will kind of build a show around that. So you have your undercards and building up gradually to the main event, but on top of that you also have backstage interviews, you have vignettes, you have little teasers and promotional videos and things like that that are also submitted by people in the company to help kind of further the stories of their characters and of the company as a whole, even if they don't necessarily have a match on the show. And basically the whole thing reads like a screenplay for a wrestling show. Now, I'm not going to do a full read through of the entire show. Maybe that's something I'll do in the future if you guys think that that's something that you would want to watch me do. But what I will do is read out the screenplay for our match. New year, new tag team gets to face the former champs. Tag team match between the Heimlich brothers and the Silent Discotecnicos. We return to ringside, where the air is absolutely electric right now. The audience has been loving every second, every fight they've seen thus far, and can't wait to witness what else they will get to witness. The camera pans around before cutting over to commentary. Welcome back, everyone. We're about to see if the Heimlich brothers can capitalize on the Silent Discotecnicos' recent loss or not. Don't be absurd. El Pablo is probably more motivated now that he and Vertigo have lost. The only Heimlichs will be the maneuver of the same name being used on these wannabes after they get their shoulders pinned to the mat. Calling it now. Anyway, take us away, Stroop. The following match is a tag team contest scheduled for one fall. Joining us first, weighing in at a combined 490 pounds, Jericho and Gideon, the Heimlich brothers. Ashes on the Fire plays over the loudspeakers as the Heimlich brothers slowly walk onto the stage. As the crescendo hits and the beat gets faster, Jericho hops on Gideon's back and gives finger guns to the crowd as Gideon runs to the ring. Jericho hops off his back right before Gideon slides into the ring, with Jericho sliding in behind. And their opponents, weighing in at a combined 378 pounds, El Pablo and Vertigo, the Silent Discotecnicos. All of the lights hits the sound system amid a dazzling display of strobe and multicolored spotlights as the Silent Discotechnicos step out onto the entranceway, bathed in a blanket of dry ice. El Pablo bounds down the ramp, Vertigo following slowly behind as his brother laps the ring, slapping hands with the fans before the two reunite at the foot of the ramp. Here, Pablo removes both his and Vertigo's headphones and donates them to a pair of young fans at ringside before the two of them dart under the ropes and into the ring, ready for battle. And then I'll put a bell there Vertigo and Gideon open. Vertigo runs and handsprings into a dropkick that catches Gideon on the jaw. Vertigo smacks Gideon with rights, forearms and an elbow to the side of the head. Vertigo whips Gideon off the ropes and leaps for a Hurricane Rana, but Gideon manages to counter, throwing Vertigo off and cracking him with a raised knee. Gideon grabs Vertigo, dropping him down to the mat with a sidewalk slam. Gideon runs off the ropes and leaps for a senton, but Vertigo rolls to the side and Gideon crashes to the mat. Vertigo runs off the ropes and smacks Gideon with a dropkick. Vertigo then runs off the ropes again and leaps for a crossbody, but Gideon catches him in mid-air and heaves Vertigo onto his shoulders. He drives Vertigo down with a power slam that Vertigo counters by rolling Gideon into a small package. 1, 2, no, kick out! Gideon pushes his way free and quickly tags in his partner. Jericho gets into the ring and drives Vertigo down with a Uranagi. He hooks the leg. 1, 2, no, kick out! Vertigo lifts his shoulder from the mat to break the count. Jericho pulls Vertigo to his feet and whips him off the ropes. Pablo makes a blind tag. Jericho backdrops Vertigo and drives him down with a DDT. He makes a cover, but the referee can't count. Pablo leaps over the top rope and comes down on the back of Jericho's neck with a leg drop. Pablo lifts Jericho to his feet and cracks Jericho's jaw with the outside of his elbow. Jericho lashes out at Pablo for a clothesline, but Pablo ducks and hits a dropkick that knocks him into the corner. Pablo charges, but Jericho backdrops him. Pablo manages to land on the top turnbuckle and he leaps backwards, crashing into Jericho with a moonsault. He grabs Jericho's legs. 1, 2, no, kick out! Gideon grabs at Pablo and pulls him away to break the count. So close there. Gideon Heimlich had to be quick on his feet there, or this could have been a Discotechnico win. Pablo gets to his feet to confront Gideon, but Jericho smacks him from behind with an axe handle, knocking him into the grasp of Gideon. He lifts Pablo up into a bear hug position. Jericho springs off the ropes, hitting a spinning kick for the full Mountain Dew. Gideon drives Pablo down with a spine buster. Jericho makes a cover. 1, 2, no, kick out! Vertigo dives in, breaking the count. Gideon charges at Vertigo, but Vertigo ducks and pulls the rope down. Gideon's momentum sends him sailing to the outside. Jericho grabs Vertigo and lifts him up for a powerbomb, but Vertigo counters with a Hurricane Rana. Jericho rolls into the corner as Pablo charges. Vertigo leaps and monkey flips Pablo into a cannonball. Pablo drags Jericho from the corner and leaps into the air. Pablo crashes down with a standing shooting star press and makes the cover. 1, 2, no, kick out! Gideon reaches into the ring, grabbing at Pablo's ankle and pulling him to break the count. Any closer and that bell is ringing. I say they brought it on themselves. Had they not knocked Gideon Heimlich to the outside, he wouldn't have been able to break that count. Pablo gets to his feet to confront Gideon again. Jericho spins him round and he boots Pablo in the gut. Jericho lifts Pablo, driving him down to the mat with a pile driver. Gideon climbs to the second rope and leaps for a splash for the full weight of the world. At the last second, Vertigo pulls Pablo to the side and safety, causing Gideon to crash to the mat and roll from the ring. Vertigo scoops up Jericho as Pablo runs off the ropes. He leaps into a spinning wheel kick for the Art Attack. Vertigo drives Jericho down with the spine buster as Pablo rolls into a cover. The referee counts. 1, 2, 3. And your winners via pinfall, the Silent Discotechnicos. Pablo and Vertigo climb the turnbuckles and raise their arms in victory. They reach into their gear and both pull out a pack of Skittles. They rip the Skittles open and throw them around like confetti before rolling from the ring and heading up the ramp. A big win for the Silent Discotechnicos tonight on Brawl. They had to come back strong after losing their championships last week. Strong they were, but it could have gone the way of the Heimlichs on at least 3 occasions. If I know that, they'll know that. So, there you have it. Silent Discotechnicos back to winning ways, 1-1 for the season. And I gotta tell you, I wasn't entirely confident. Now, don't get me wrong, I thought I put up a really strong piece personally. I think we had some really good character stuff in there. Maybe not quite as much in terms of actual in-ring and strategy as maybe I could have done in hindsight, but I think it was a pretty good balance. Shout out to Mike, the mind behind the Heimlich brothers. I thought he did a really good job on his bit as well. I think it's always tricky when, even if you're really happy with what you've submitted, you read what your opponents have put up and then you immediately kind of start talking yourself out of it, thinking, oh yeah, but that was really good as well, and maybe they did that a little bit better than me. But love what I've seen so far from the Heimlichs as characters, so definitely looking forward to seeing more of them going forward. And I'm sure, this won't be the last time that the two of us / the four of us do battle with one another. Shout out to Em again as well. She wrote the first match with the Heat Packers on Prime and wrote this one as well. So absolutely crushing it from a Disco Technicolor point of view so far. And as we scroll down, typically me sitting here saying, oh yeah, but I don't know, I was feeling pretty good, but we were awarded the MVPs, which basically means that out of all of the works submitted for this show, ours had the highest score, which is crazy when I look at some of the names that are on that card. People like Morgan Darkwater, like Jojo Rush, he's a former Undisputed Champion, Xavier Reed, former Undisputed Champion, and now Hardcore Champion. So shout out to other Mike. And yeah, that is Brawl number 620. That is the Silent Discotechnicos' first win of the season in the books. So question is, who's up next? The next show that I signed up for is the next episode of Monday Night Brawl, episode 621, March the 10th, 2025, live from the Auto Nation Sports Field in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So as we scroll down the card, so genuinely, that's the first time that I've seen this. So I don't know if this is the YouTube gods kind of manifesting this already, but bearing in mind, you know, our mission for this season is to try and win the Undisputed Championship. Our next match on Monday Night Brawl is against the current reigning EWC Undisputed Champion. Now, obviously, it's a non-title match. They are not going to make it that easy for me. But similar to what I alluded to with this Discotechnicos match against the Heimlichs, where if you go up against a champion and beat that champion, whether it's a non-title match or not, then that goes a long way to kind of putting your character in the conversation and kind of giving the showrunners, both in character and out of character, that kind of impetus to consider you in those kind of storylines and that kind of progression. So a lot riding on this. And I mean, DJ, obviously, given that he is the Undisputed Champion, is a phenomenal writer as well. So really looking forward to that challenge, really looking forward to seeing if I can get this mission off to an unprecedented level of progression, I suppose. Kick it along the schedule a few months quicker than we expected. But I will leave it at that for now, and I shall see you in the next section. So this is the situation. Much like the Heat Packers, Cosmo is someone who El Pablo has a little bit of previous with. He debuted in summer 2023, and pretty soon after that he was picked as part of Team Rampage for Brand Warfare at Parabellum, which is essentially a big multi-person tag madness on a beach in Thailand inside a cage, as you do. And as part of that match, he eliminated El Pablo before his team ultimately went on to win. He then, just before the beginning of the next season, 2024, beat El Pablo in an unofficial pay-per-view called House Party that was put on by the faction that Cosmo was a part of at the time. Now, Pablo would get a little measure of revenge when the Silent Discotechnicos pinned Cosmo Goldworthy and Tori Taylor in a tag match on Brawl a few months later. He would then even the score when he pinned Cosmo as part of a triple threat 2 weeks later. Cosmo would then wrench back the advantage when he drop-kicked El Pablo from the top of a triple-tier cage at Night of Champions before Pablo tied things up again and completed the circle by helping to eliminate Cosmo from that year's Brand Warfare at Parabellum 2024. So we are delicately poised, I suppose you could say. But I suppose the crucial detail, certainly in Cosmo's mind, will be that the only other time that he and Pablo have faced one-on-one, he's got the win. Unofficially, I would hasten to add. Having said that, if you look at their records as a whole, then I can readily admit that Cosmo is in a completely different stratosphere to El Pablo. As I say, he debuted in the summer of 2023. And if you just look at this ridiculous list of accomplishments since then, so 2 times United States champion, fighting spirit champion, broadcast champion, half an international champion. I don't know what that means. Former Rampage Superstar of the Year, former Rookie of the Year, Feud of the Year, Match of the Year. He's won the Rumble last year, won the Trios tournament. He's Brand Warfare winner, as discussed. Was a finalist in the Rumble before the one he won. 2 times winner of War Games. A very many MVP awards. He's pretty good, is what I'm trying to say. So, a significant challenge for Pablo to overcome, a significant challenge for me to overcome. So, when trying to think of how to approach this, I mean, in terms of motivation, there's not really anything more obvious than the fact that he is the undisputed champion and Pablo wants it. So that whole idea of, if I beat you in this match, it's highly likely that I can book myself an opportunity for the title further on down the road. I think it's important to kind of frame it within where El Pablo's come from, sort of how he started and his kind of journey to get to this point, just to highlight that emotional side of things and make it clear what a match like this means to him, both professionally and especially personally. I do also want to make reference in the piece of the fact that Pablo's already had a few opportunities to fight for the Undisputed Championship and has come up short, with him bringing the caveat that on those previous occasions he didn't know if he could beat Melody Malone, he didn't know if he could beat Narumi Tsutsumi, he didn't know if he could beat 30 other people in a Rumble, but he knows that he can beat Cosmo because he has beaten Cosmo. With the show being in Fort Lauderdale as well, as I've said before, I always kind of like setting it in a location that brings something or that conjures some kind of image relating to the match or Pablo's state of mind or the opponent. So with this being in Fort Lauderdale, apparently that is called the Venice of America. And there's a lot of canals and a lot of waterways and things like that. And I've got a vision of Pablo walking or being on a boat or moving in some form or fashion along one of these waterways with various kind of multicolored lights pulsating and him having kind of veins or ribbons or something kind of painted on his arms that are also then like pulsating in time with that, and it's all kind of leading up to his chest and to his heart and his soul, and it's that kind of, you know, this is my life force, this is what gets into my soul, this is what's going to kind of give me that identity and that legacy that I've been fighting for my entire life. So we'll see if there's a way to work that all in. So over the past couple of days I have written our first scene, which I'm not going to read through this time. I don't particularly want to spoil it. I've tried something a little different in how I've written it as well, and I think it's one that kind of, I think it lends itself a bit more to being read rather than performed and spoken. That's the word. Why did I struggle with that? Doesn't that bode well? But yeah, it's basically a flashback, a retelling to Pablo's start in the business, him getting that first wrestling contract after leaving the place where he was trained by his uncle. And again, I don't want to spoil anything, but we do get a little bit of Pablo lore in there, which is so stupid, but I love it. And I think knowing El Pablo as I do, as I am, it it really suits the character as kind of not an origin story, but a milestone in the creation of this persona that he is now. But yeah, that's the first scene. And then I think the second scene is going to be where we really get into this match. This is going to be the shoot portion of the story. So this will be where it will be possibly just Pablo. Maybe he'll have his family with him. I'm not sure. I feel like the vision I have in mind for this one is a lot more kind of monologue-y. But yeah, Pablo on his own, somewhere in the waterways of Fort Lauderdale, discussing his hopeful, eventual Undisputed Championship win. I'm just going to have a quick scan through Cosmo's bio just to see if there's anything in there that I can tie into somewhere in Fort Lauderdale as well. Maybe just like a road name that tallies up or something like that, rather than just something to narrow it down a bit more from all of Fort Lauderdale or the water. There is a lot of gold in his bio, obviously, because he has gold in his name, you see, and that's what I would do. So maybe there's just somewhere called Gold in Florida. I mean, probably in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. I don't know why I thought I could figure it out just by looking at his bio and not a map of Fort Lauderdale. Fort of Lauderdale. There's a place called the Karen Canal. I bet that's fun. The New River, because he is a new wrestler than El Pablo. Or because El Pablo wants to be the new Undisputed Champion. No, I don't think so. Oh, you have to zoom in so far to see road names, and I don't want to scroll this much. I'm not going to scroll through every single road. Let's just zoom out a bit. And what about the Hendricks and Venice Isles? Because there is a Venice Beach in California, which is where Cosmo is from. I'm just going to search Venice in Cosmo's posts and see if he mentioned it. He did. Before his very first match in the EWC, he was working out at the famed Muscle Beach Gym in Venice. So, we're talking about the start of Pablo's career in a place that has the same name as where we saw Cosmo before the start of his career. That could be a thing. Yeah, I think we might do that. Okay, it is the next day, nearly 2 days later, given that it is currently 10 o'clock at night. But we made some decent progress yesterday. I would like to have been a little bit further ahead than I am now, but I'd say we're about 2/3 of the way through, I think. It's currently at about 1,500 words, so maybe about 1,000 or so still to go. But we're just getting to the point where we're about to really start talking about Cosmo and really getting into the meat of this match. So changed a couple of things around. I ended up scrapping the monologue idea. Personally, I don't think monologues are a particularly strong suit of mine in terms of writing. Like, I'll have bits in a scene where Pablo is just rambling on his own for an extended period of time, but I always find from my point of view that my writing's a bit more compelling and just flows a little bit better if there's two or more people involved in it. Personally, I think my dialogue writing is pretty good, pretty natural, and I enjoy writing that kind of thing anyway. So it's Pablo and Bob Murray, who is the lead interviewer for Monday Night Brawl. And one of the reasons I went for that, along with just it being someone for Pablo to bounce off of, is that for Pablo's very first appearance on Brawl back in 2022, I think it was, he was being interviewed by Bob Murray on a boat in Mexico. So again, kind of playing into that whole full circle idea that we're trying to bring into this promo. I feel like that kind of worked and added to that as well. But yeah, it's maybe not flowing out of me quite as easily as I would like it to, especially given the time that it's writing. I think in an ideal world I would have done a lot more kind of over the course of the week, but circumstances haven't really panned out that way. But I feel like one of the easiest ways to kind of get through that is just to write, and you'll hit your stride at some point. And if you need to go back and tweak bits at the start of it where maybe the engine wasn't quite getting going as quickly as you wanted, then so be it. But yeah, I think we're in the home stretch, so I'm gonna stick some music on, gonna knuckle down, and we shall see how we get on. Okay, it is the next day. Same jumper, but a new day. The sun is shining, the birds are singing, my cat is watching it all from a room somewhere else in this house, hence why the door is open. Most importantly, the story is done. She has posted, and it is now up to the gods, the curators of chaos, to determine if El Pablo can get the victory over the undisputed champion. Ended up clocking in at just under 3,000 words. I think it was about 2,800 or so in the end. So 'twas a big boy. I didn't end up finishing until about 1:30 in the morning, which is crazy. And I think the main thing I've learned from doing this for about a month or so now is that I really need to start the planning and the brainstorming process earlier. Like, I know, as I've said a couple of times already, this past couple of weeks has been a bit up and down for various reasons anyway, but yeah, I think even just brainstorming earlier will kind of help me get a lot of the legwork and a lot of the slow grind that initially gets the ball rolling done a little bit earlier, just to save completely having to cram it all in at the last minute. I think I've also been quite rigid so far in terms of it all has to be on video. I need to do a video and write at this time, whereas I think I work better when I'm kind of just writing a bit more off the cuff. So I think I just need to keep doing that, kind of keep my creative routine and my creative process as it would normally be, and then build the videos around that rather than changing up my routine to fit the video, which is kind of what the whole purpose of this was in the first place, really. But anyway, as I said, it is done. I feel pretty good about it. I mean, I was pretty delirious by the time that I finally got it finished, but yeah, I think we did pretty good. I think I got most, if not all, of the points across in some form or fashion that I wanted to. I think the arguments are pretty solid. I think the character work and the El Pablo lore and backstory that I've managed to get across, I think personally is really strong, and I really enjoyed that, kind of just as a writer, putting that creation out into the world. So yeah, as always, I will leave a link in the description to this story, to the previous shows as well, if you want to catch up on that. If for whatever reason that doesn't work, evidently YouTube doesn't think I'm cool enough yet to be able to have the proper links, you can access it all through the link in my bio as well. If you search out Monday Night Brawl promos, you will find everything you want to there. Just look for the EPFTW username and there I shall be. So yeah, hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching my previous videos as well. The response has been just mind-blowing for me, to be honest. So again, to my day ones, thank you so much. Please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time on Fighting Through Writing. Oh, and one more thing before I go. You asked how all this stuff about boats and beaches was going to help me upset Cosmo in the AutoNation sports field on Monday night. Well, I've got 2 words for you. Full circle. This match on March the 10th may not be for that Undisputed Championship, but winning it'll absolutely put me in the conversation for a potential shot at it further down the river. A shot at not only finally winning the belt that I broke records and barriers alike to first fight for back at Stranglemania 13, but a shot at finally fulfilling the birthright and the legacy that was ripped away from me before I'd even had so much as a chance to savour it. I didn't know at the time if I could beat Melody Malone. I didn't know at the time if I could beat Narumi. But I know I can beat Cosmo. Is he the Gorn? Absolutely. Does he hit as hard as arguably anybody in the entire EWC? The sucker punch he gave me at the house party in the off-season last year says you'd better believe it. Is he willing to go to as great a lengths as possible to make sure he picks up the victory? The fact that he frickin' drop-kicked me off the top of the Insanity cage at last year's Night of Champions says, oh my goodness, yes. But let's not forget, I've got a Parabellum 24 and 2 consecutive Monday Night Brawls that I told you he's not quite as infallible as he'd like you to believe if you can take him off of his admittedly pretty 24-carat scuffless schematic. I warned him as much back in Atlanta before the Discotechnicos shut the lights off of him and Tori. I warned him again a fortnight later in Shreveport before I kicked that match off by clotheslining Narumi into a new decennium. And if those 2 victories didn't get that point across, then the surprise face painting he got before the lad's black flash bounced him out of Brown Warfare should have made it plain to see how deadly EP can be. I admit that beating him would be almost completely unexpected, would take something unexpected. But unfortunately for our undisputed champion, unexpected is where my proverbial auxiliary apartment's been erected. Unexpected is a second home for me. Unexpected is my bread and butter. And while I know there's people out there who think I might be a couple of sandwiches short of a picnic, they'd all best believe that I'm going to be heading to that ring on Monday night, fully focused on jamming Money Mo into another psychological pickle, the kind of which he's going to have no clue with how to deal, and which is going to ultimately leave his ambitions of kicking off this truly golden season with 3 straight victories as toast. I've had a lot of false dawns during my time here, but on March 10th, I get the chance to truly step out of the shadows once and for all. On March 10th, I get the chance to show the world that I'm the one who's worthy. On March 10th, this Rainbowlutionary fable finally comes full circle. From Venice to Venice, from Rochester to Fort Lauderdale, from exiled to up next to be undisputed. Viva la Rainbowlution.